Tonight we have new insight about the case of a former principal charged with sex crimes against his students.
It could have been stopped. You know, it's like it didn't have to get as far as it did.
Last night at 5:30, we interviewed this mother of one of David Edwards' alleged victims. She talked about how her son continues struggling with it years later and how she's angry Edwards wasn't arrested sooner. And tonight, a man who worked at Edwards' school is coming forward saying he reported suspicions about him years earlier and it cost him his job. I-Team reporter Nicole Carr has his story.
All I know is the kids. We should have done a better job.
Orner Walker says he had the kids' best interests in mind when he first spoke up in 2007, suspecting some boys at Ramsey Street Alternative School were being put in compromising positions by Principal David Edwards.
You obligated to protect that child. You know, if you suspect a child being abused, you call a social worker. And you apologize for it later, but at least the kid come first. If I was wrong, okay, I apologize.
Walker was hired by Cumberland County Schools in the late 90s. Over the next decade, he spent most of his time mentoring troubled students through a grant-funded position with the HOPE program. In early 2007, Walker says he decided he had to have a talk with Principal Edwards, who he considered more than just a colleague or supervisor.
I mean, we were friends, and it just, let me go talk to this dude and see what's going on. You know, I mean, I just went to talk to him. It wasn't no, you know, trying to mess him up or destroy him, or, you know, it wasn't a discredit him. I went to him as a friend. But then the way he reacted, then right then I was like, okay.
What Walker asked him about is the kind of behavior alleged in this civil suit against Edwards and the Cumberland County school system.
Kids get in trouble, the male students, and they don't even get suspended or nothing. He just, you know, he might put his arm around him and walk down there and talk to him and then bring him on back to class.
Walker says he saw strange looks and interactions in the hallway.
It just didn't look right. That every time you look around, he's talking to the male student when we got a female student also.
Walker says after Edwards got upset about his questions, he sought the advice of retired principal Mary Owens, who told him to report the concerns to Edwards' supervisor.
And he said, well, I'll talk to him about it. Never got back with me on that.
Instead, within weeks, Walker says he found himself in trouble after breaking up a school fight.
Somehow it got turned around. I used too much force to stop the fight.
And he says Principal Edwards came to him with an ultimatum.
Either you resign or you get fired. And they did go to court and the charge was dropped. And I had already resigned.
Walker would go on to start his own business and didn't hear much about Edwards again until August 2013.
When it came out, I had a few people call me, did you hear it? Walker, you know, after 6 years ago, you was right.
Edwards was soon arrested and indicted on charges he sexually abused male students at both Ramsey Street Alternative and Douglas Byrd Middle between 2009 and 2013, years after Walker says he reported suspicions.
He held himself out as a father figure. He made use of the fact that he was a pastor, not just a principal, but a pastor. He abused everyone's trust.
Lisa Lanier represents two of Edwards' alleged victims and is suing Edwards and Cumberland County Schools, which initially said they were unaware of any accusations against the principal and that he'd resigned for educational opportunities. But the I-Team has confirmed through a Sheriff's Department spokesperson that Edwards was investigated in 2007 after Walker reported his suspicions, and again in 2011. Both times, authorities say they had to notify the school system.
It could have been stopped. You know, it's like it didn't have to get as far as it did. It could have been stopped, you know, a long time ago when, you know, someone had reported that there was unusual behavior from Mr. Edwards.
The mother of one of the alleged victims and attorney Lanier say they're angry Orner Walker's suspicions weren't taken seriously and fear there may be more victims out there.
I think we're dealing with multiple victims. I'm aware of 3 victims presently who are part of the criminal proceeding. I'm aware of 2 other victims who came forward in the past, and those claims didn't make it to the level of criminal charges. And I'm aware of a child who was molested years ago.
But Walker says he's worked with enough troubled boys to know that most would never come forward.
The kids that we dealt with, you know, those kids they're from the hard side of town. You know, how that gonna make you look to know that, man, you let a man touch you and you didn't do nothing about it.
But Cumberland County authorities hope any other potential victims out there do come forward. David Edwards faces 2 lawsuits and a criminal trial for 11 counts of sex crimes against boys in his schools. That is, unless he enters a guilty plea before then. Right now, he's out on bond and still active as a pastor in his church. He declined comment on this series of stories, and his attorney has not returned our calls. The school board attorney says he cannot make comment on pending litigation. For the I-Team, Nicole Carr, ABC 11 Eyewitness News.